Chapter 2765. Almighty Rise. The Divine Demon Sect was definitely in a disadvantageous position when they encountered the Sword Alliance even during their prime. On the contrary, they would be directly struck down. After that huge battle, the Divine Demon Sect alone had lost 6 Grand Ultimate Gods, and when combined with those 3 from the Heavenly Blood Alliance that the Sword Alliance killed, they had lost a total of 9 Grand Ultimate Gods. It could be said that they suffered a great loss. They would have to consider themselves fortunate if the Sword Alliance did not continue taking action against the Divine Demon Sect under such circumstances. It was a joke for the Divine Demon Sect to think of retaliating against the Sword Alliance to snatch back the territories that once belonged to the Heavenly Blood Alliance and avenge their fallen experts. He even understood that if Nanwoo Palace Master did not take action in time, the Divine Demon Sect would have lost even more experts. Alliance Master Suhan, "I'll make a move first since everything has been resolved," said Nanwoo Palace Master before turning to leave. Dong Shen and the Divine Demon Sect's remaining Grand Ultimate Gods had dark expressions on their faces, especially Dong Shen, who was glancing at Jian Wushuang and the others coldly. Although he did not speak, Jian Wushuang could spot the torrential grudge in his look. After a few moments upon Nanwoo Palace Master and the others' departure, has anybody suffered losses? Jian Wushuang looked at the Grand Ultimate Gods around him. Old Tong, Zhu Exen, Old Snake, and Ing, and Lan Junju looked at each other with smiles on their faces. Alliance Master Suhan, "There aren't many people who I admire throughout my entire life, but you have my admiration today." The Divine Demon Sect had been dominating the Danyang continent for so many years and never suffered any losses even during their head-on fights against either the Crimson Stone Fort or Nanwoo Palace. However, the Divine Demon Sect had suffered such tremendous losses in the hands of Alliance Master Suhan and lost 9 Grand Ultimate Gods. "I really admire your abilities," said Old Tong. Previously, he had a huge fallout with the Divine Demon Sect. Hence he was the happiest upon seeing the Divine Demon Sect suffering great losses. Apart from holding such strong suppressing domains, you also had a gold-armored corpse puppet, a silver-armored corpse puppet, and 2 bronze-armored corpse puppets. No wonder the Alliance Master was so confident to go into a head-on fight against the Divine Demon Sect. It turns out you really can go against the Divine Demon Sect. Zhu Exen and Ing, Lan Junju, and the others were happily chit-chatting among themselves. They were truly quite nervous and worried before their fight with the Divine Demon Sect. It was the Divine Demon Sect who had never been overthrown for years after all. However, they had never expected they would defeat the Divine Demon Sect head-on with such overwhelming means. They never even dared to think about it before that moment. Jian Wushuang only smiled gently when he heard that. "Alliance Master, I don't think Dong Shen will just let this go based on his facial expression when he left," said Old Snake with a deep voice. Jian Wushuang slightly smiled. "I know. Although the Divine Demon Sect is one of the Danyang continent's pinnacle forces with quite a stable foundation with many Grand Ultimate Gods, we killed 9 of them. How can the Divine Demon Sect put down such a great loss? However, the Sword Alliance isn't afraid of them regardless of the grudges the Divine Demon Sect bears against us. In addition, the losses they suffer this time are so great that it's enough to affect their foundation and position. The Divine Demon Sect will be struggling after this and might even fall into a position with no hope of making a comeback if they aren't careful. In the end, there are many forces and experts who lust after the Divine Demon Sect's position or have grudges against them. Jian Wushuang knew clearly that the Divine Demon Sect must have accumulated quite many grudges throughout the years as one of the pinnacle forces. For example, Old Tong previously had a great grudge against the Divine Demon Sect. There were certainly many experts like Old Tong in the Danyang continent who had grudges against the Divine Demon Sect. Despite the many experts' grudges, the Divine Demon Sect did not suffer any losses to their strength as they had many experts on top of also having Dong Shen personally overlooking matters, which was enough to shock everyone. However, the Divine Demon Sect had lost 9 Grand Ultimate Gods all at once that day. It was not easy to recover from such a great loss. It was a great opportunity for those experts or forces that held grudges against the Divine Demon Sect to overturn them. It's a waste we did not completely stop Dong Shen in this battle, or the divine demon sect would have been done for, thought Jian Wushuang to himself. Dong Shen was the backbone and stabilizing force of the divine demon sect. Even though the divine demon sect lost a huge number of grand ultimate gods, they were still qualified to be considered as a pinnacle force as long as Dong Shen was still alive. However, the divine demon sect would be easily overturned if Dong Shen died, as they would lack the highest combat power deterrence. However, Jian Wushuang also understood it was not so easy to kill a peak grand ultimate god. At least he knew that he was unable to do so at the moment. In the battle just moments ago, he only managed to control the gold-armored corpse puppet to do its best at pestering Dong Shen under the suppressive assistance of the domains. It's normal for the divine demon sect to be unhappy, but the appearance of Nanwu Palace Master is beyond my expectation, said Jian Wushuang with a frown. He was prepared to face the divine demon sect but did not expect to face Nanwu Palace. Nanwu Palace Master's appearance was indeed unexpected. Luckily, the Nanwu Palace did not directly take action against the Sword Alliance and only asked us to stop to protect the Danyang continent's balance. It looks like Nanwu Palace doesn't want to cause a big stir and place high importance toward the balance of forces in the Danyang continent. Jian Wushuang slightly narrowed his eyes and smirked weirdly. However, Nanwu Palace Master isn't aware that even without the Sword Alliance continuing our actions, it'll be difficult for the Divine Demon Sect to stabilize their current situation based on the losses they suffered. The situation between forces in the Danyang continent will still enter a chaotic period. It isn't only because the Divine Demon Sect is unable to stabilize their current situation with the losses they suffered, but the most important matter is the strong uprising of the Sword Alliance. The Sword Alliance is having a strong uprising this time and will surely turn the Danyang continent upside down. The messier the Danyang continent becomes, the better it is for me. Old Tong, Zhu Xan, and the others who stood beside Jian Wushuang glanced at each other. They did not know Jian Wushuang's true aim but had their pride, as they had promised to fight for the Sword Alliance for 1,000 years. They would do their best no matter which forces the Sword Alliance went against during that period. The Sword Alliance had a great victory in the battle that day, as they had wiped out the Divine Demon Sect in a face-to-face battle and killed 9 of their grand ultimate gods. Once that news spread, they believed it would shake the entire Danyang continent and cause a wave of perilous reaction. The Sword Alliance's prestige would reach new heights within a short time. Unsurprisingly, it would lead to the birth of a new pinnacle force. Chapter 2766, A Great Shock. Jian Wushuang and his people previously wiped out the Heavenly Blood Alliance with overwhelming strength and killed 3 grand ultimate gods, including the Heavenly Blood Alliance Master. The Divine Demon Sect was furious and attacked with their full might. Nanwu Palace Master was not the only one who received news about the occurrence. Several other pinnacle forces and many first-rated forces, second-rated forces, and independent experts had also learned about it. There were many witnesses during the head-on fight between Divine Demon Sect and Sword Alliance, which resulted in an immediate spread of the news. As Jian Wushuang and the others had anticipated, the news caused a stir in the entire Danyang continent once it spread. The forces and many experts in the Danyang continent were stunned. The Divine Demon Sect sent their full force of 12 grand ultimate gods, being personally led by the Divine Demon Sect Master Dong Shen, to clash head-on with the Sword Alliance, but was defeated. 6 of their grand ultimate gods were decapitated on the spot by the Sword Alliance? How's that possible? Is this a joke? After all, they are one of the pinnacle forces. This is inaccurate. It's inaccurate. I know about the Sword Alliance, and they had just been founded decades ago. The Alliance Master is Su Han, who's only a primary-level Grand Ultimate God. Although he's a genius and killed FOE in a head-on battle while still a Heaven Ultimate God, it was rumored that his success had a certain level of embellishment in it. How could it be possible for the Sword Alliance to directly go against the Divine Demon Sect and defeat them? It's impossible. I think it's impossible too. Different forces and experts felt it was impossible when they received the news, with no one believing it. However, many saw the battle, with some of them being extremely strong experts. There were even people who purposely recorded the battle with image tokens. Although these people did not know what happened to the divine demon sect's grand ultimate gods after they were trapped in the golden prison, the onlookers still recorded the subsequent events after Nanwoo Palace Master destroyed the golden prison. Those image tokens soon spread widely across the Danyang continent. The experts could only accept the truth regardless of how unbelievable it was with the image tokens' existences. It's true? The Sword Alliance had truly defeated the divine demon sect? Oh my god, since when did strange Old Tong, Ju Exen, Old Snake, and Ing and Lan Junju join the Sword Alliance? And since when did Ju Exen, Old Snake, and Ing make a breakthrough to the high-level Grand Ultimate God realm? Look at those figures in the recording. Those are corpse puppets. Those two bronze-armored corpse puppets have the combat power of ordinary high-level Grand Ultimate Gods, while the silver-armored corpse puppet has a peak high-level Grand Ultimate God strength. However, those images even showed Alliance Master Su Han taking out a gold-armored corpse puppet which had the combat power of a peak Grand Ultimate God. No wonder they're capable of defeating the divine demon sect in a face-to-face battle. The Sword Alliance's upper echelons have such high combat power? All questions were thrown out the window when they saw the occurrence from those mirror images. The Sword Alliance's battle array was horrifying and truly had the capability of directly defeating the divine demon sect. At that moment, all of them understood that the divine demon sect's defeat was justifiable and their remaining grand ultimate gods might not be able to leave peacefully were it not for Nanwoo Palace Master's interference at the end. Apart from that, two other matters arose after the news was verified. Firstly, the divine demon sect was badly affected by the battle. The divine demon sect had lost a total of 9 grand ultimate gods in the battle when taking into consideration of those 3 Heavenly Blood Alliance's grand ultimate gods that were killed. It had to be highlighted that the divine demon sect had a limited number of grand ultimate gods. Losing 9 of them meant they were left with a small number which drastically decreased their upper echelon's combat power. Such events had brought excitement to many forces in the Danyang continent. Some of the experts who had grudges against the divine demon sect were also eager to take action. In the past, the divine demon sect was extremely strong and acted extremely domineeringly, hence those experts dared not offend them even though they had triggered many of those experts. However, the divine demon sect had suffered such a huge change at that moment and those experts would not forget to hit them with another blow. Secondly, the Sword Alliance had directly defeated the divine demon sect. The Sword Alliance's overpowering strength had shocked those forces and experts. Hence a rumor had been started in the Danyang continent that the Sword Alliance would be replacing the divine demon sect and become a new pinnacle force. Apart from that, even if the divine demon sect was able to maintain itself due to Dongshin's support and their profound heritage, the Sword Alliance's rise was certain. It was because the Sword Alliance already had the strength of a pinnacle force. Although the Sword Alliance did not have a true peak grand ultimate god, they had a gold-armored corpse puppet supporting them as their highest-level combat power. Such a fact was further verified with their capabilities of directly defeating the divine demon sect during the grand ultimate god-level battle. As for those lower-level members being led by the Sword Alliance, every force had received news that the Sword Alliance also had an army known as the Divine Sword Army, consisted of 500 heaven ultimate gods that was formed at a great cost and having extremely high combat powers. It could be said that Jian Wushuang had already possessed sufficient strength. It was estimated that the difference between the current Sword Alliance and a pinnacle force was having sufficient territories and profound heritages. However, obsolete strength was required to obtain territories and profound heritage, but that was not an issue as one could also plunder others for them. Therefore, the Sword Alliance undisputedly would become a new pinnacle force in the Danyang continent. In a dimly lit hall, there was no lighting or any ornaments but only a huge round table in the middle. At that moment, 3 obscure figures formed around the round table. Those 3 obscure figures were only consciousness incarnations and not the real bodies, as they did not have any power but were only capable of conversing. "Why isn't Dongshin here?" An evil voice resounded from an evil-looking old man who was completely covered under a black robe. The evil-looking elder had green eyes and looked extremely ghastly. However, he had a great identity. There were 5 pinnacle forces in the Danyang continent, and that evil-looking elder was the Life and Death Tower Master. The Divine Demon sect had met with such a huge change and suffered losing 9 grand ultimate gods alongside a great blow to their prestige. Many forces and experts now have their eyes fixated on the Divine Demon sect, hence Dong Xin is extremely busy doing his Divine Demon sect master responsibilities right now. How could he have the time to come over here? A gentle voice could be heard from the only woman among those 3 people. She was an old lady with gray hair and had spots all over her face, looking extremely worn out. The Dongfang clan masters had always been women. The gray-haired old lady was the clan master of Dongfang clan at that moment. Chapter 2767, Outer Realm. Apart from those 2, a bulky middle-aged man with a strict face was also sitting by the round table. The bulky middle-aged man in a loose yet expensive-looking robe was the publicly recognized most powerful expert in the Danyang continent, Nanwu Palace Master. Nanwu Palace Master, Life and Death Tower Master, and the Dongfang Clan Master. 3 of the 5 pinnacle forces leaders in the Danyang continent had gathered there. Honorable leaders, I'm sure you know the reason I invited you here today? Nanwu Palace Master looked at the others around him. The evil-looking elder, the Life and Death Tower Master, laughed weirdly. Of course, we definitely need to revise our plans now that such a huge incident has occurred. The gray-haired old lady, also known as the Dongfang Clan Master, asked, I never imagined the Divine Demon sect was so weak. How could they be defeated in a head-on battle against the Sword Alliance, an alliance that had just been formed recently? Don't underestimate the Sword Alliance. Both of you would be foolish to think that it was a pure coincidence for the Sword Alliance to defeat the Divine Demon sect, said Nanwu Palace Master in a low voice. Nanwu, what do you mean by this? The Life and Death Tower Master looked at him. Nanwu, you also took action during the battle and knew most about the Sword Alliance. Tell us about them if you know, said Dongfang Clan Master. It's true that I saw the entire battle with my own eyes. The Sword Alliance isn't weak and is truly slightly stronger than the Divine Demon sect. I'm guessing that only Nanwu Palace is stronger than the Sword Alliance among our 4 pinnacle forces, while both of your forces are almost at a similar level to the Sword Alliance, said Nanwu Palace Master. Are they really that strong? The Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master's facial expressions darkened. They saw from the mirror images that the Sword Alliance had quite strong combat powers. However, it was quite unconvincing to say the Sword Alliance was well matched with both their forces. Nanwu Palace Master said with a serious tone, you only saw images of the battle but did not participate in it. The Sword Alliance had such an upper hand in the battle isn't only because the Sword Alliance has a group of grand ultimate gods with high combat power. Another major reason is the Sword Alliance Master Su Han. Don't underestimate Su Han. Although he only has the power of a primary level grand ultimate god, he has extremely strong skills and exceptionally strong domains. Many of the Divine Demon sect's grand ultimate gods were greatly suppressed when it was activated, causing their combat power to be greatly reduced. Even a peak grand ultimate god such as Dong Shen was greatly suppressed. These are the results of his domains when covering the entire battlefield. If he focused on only suppressing an individual, the domain's suppression would be even stronger. The Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master were stunned when they heard that. They realized that Nanwu Palace Master had a high evaluation of Su Han's domains. Su Han's skills in domain control must be extremely good for the Nanwu Palace Master to give him such high praise. Su Han's skills and the Sword Alliance's strength are only some of the factors. The real issue we should be afraid of is the Sword Alliance's background, said Nanwu Palace Master all of a sudden. Background? The Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master were stunned. The Sword Alliance had risen at such a fast pace within only a couple of decades, while Su Han is just a primary level grand ultimate god who isn't really strong. How can he create such a strong Sword Alliance capable of competing against the pinnacle forces by himself in such a short time? Nanwu Palace Master seriously raised his doubts. You mean that Su Han has people secretly supporting him? Dongfang Clan Master slightly narrowed her eyes. That's right. According to the news I received, the Sword Alliance already started building its own army when it was founded. Apart from that, the reason their strength grew so profoundly is that the Sword Alliance has a large number of resources. They gave much better offers, 2 to 3 times more compared to those offered by ordinary first-rated forces, to the experts they gathered. The reason so many experts are willing to join the Sword Alliance is because of their exceptional offers and is the reason the Sword Alliance manages to grow rapidly within such a short period. However, where did all these resources come from? It can't be Su Han who obtained them by himself, right? Nanwu Palace Master asked. The Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master also nodded in agreement after hearing Nanwu Palace Master's conjunction. It was true that Su Han only had the strength of an ordinary peak heaven ultimate god when he first gained a reputation in the Danyang continent. The number of resources he owned when compared to his strength obviously meant somebody was secretly supporting him. However, who could be capable, or should we say, who would spend so much resources to raise the Sword Alliance to become a pinnacle force? Could it be the Crimson Stone Fort? The Life and Death Tower Master had a cold look in his eyes. However, Nanwu Palace Master directly shook his head. It can't be the Crimson Stone Fort. If it's the Crimson Stone Fort during its peak period when they had the Crimson Stone Saints supporting them, they might still be capable of supporting the rise of a pinnacle force. However, I'm sure you know of the current situation in the Crimson Stone Fort. They have such serious internal fights amongst their factions and suffer a huge consumption of assorted resources. Even Yun Shan, the person who's in charge of various resources in the Crimson Stone Fort and the most wealthy among them all, isn't capable of supporting the rise of a pinnacle force. It's difficult for them to even support a single first-rated force. Apart from that, all of us know the temperament of strange old Tong, Ju Xian, and Ying, and Lan Junju. The current Crimson Stone Fort isn't capable of coming up with better terms to move them. However, these people are obeying Sword Alliance's Su Han right now. The Dongfang Clan Master suddenly asked, if it isn't the Crimson Stone Fort, who else is capable of supporting the Sword Alliance? Could it be somebody from the Outer Realm? Outer Realm. The Life and Death Tower Master also narrowed his eyes. Nanwu Palace Master's facial expression turned cold. Nobody among the local forces in the Danyang Holy Domain is capable of raising a pinnacle force. There's a huge possibility that the Sword Alliance's supporter is a force from the Outer Realm. The Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master's facial expression darkened after they heard that. The Outer Realm. The Danyang Holy Domain was only one of the many realms within the 9 realms of Golden Crow. There were 8 other realms around them on top of the Danyang Holy Domain. Among those 8 realms, some of the realms were bigger and wider than the Danyang Holy Domain, which naturally meant they had more experts. Even the weakest realm was comparable to the Danyang Holy Domain, and there were without a doubt some extremely strong forces in those other 8 realms. The remaining 8 realms differ from the Danyang Holy Domain as they still have undying saints supporting them. The forces they controlled were extremely powerful. Chapter 2768. Silent Acquiescence. It was not difficult for forces from the other 8 realms who had undying saints supporting them to raise a pinnacle force in the Danyang Holy Domain. If a pinnacle force from the Outer Realm is secretly supporting the Sword Alliance is true, the Sword Alliance is of great threat to us. The Life and Death Tower Master had a cold look in his eyes. Yes, the Danyang Holy Domain has been at an absolute disadvantage since Crimson Stone Saint's passing. The current infiltration of Outer Realm's pinnacle forces must be aimed at taking over the entire Danyang Holy Domain. We should take action right now and wipe out the Sword Alliance while it still hasn't stabilized its position to be safe, said the Dongfang Clan Master. Nanwu Palace Master frowned. It's true that we should immediately take action under normal circumstances. However, matters are different right now. I've received news that the Crimson Stone Fort recently has been rather eventful and all the factions are preparing to take action. It seems Saber Master, who once controlled one of the factions, has fallen. The Life and Death Tower Master said, I've also heard about this, but it's just a rumor with no way for us to confirm if Saber Master had truly fallen. However, The situation in Crimson Stone Fort has indeed been rather eventful recently. It looks like Crimson Stone Fort's factions will completely fall out with a really huge battle about to happen. Their huge battle is the opportunity we've been longing for a long time. Nanwu Palace Master had a cold expression on his face. That's why it's unsuitable for us to take action right now. It can be said that the Sword Alliance has risen at the perfect timing as it happens to be when there'll be some huge shifts happening in the Crimson Stone Fort. We cannot focus on the Sword Alliance if we aim to complete our long-term goals of completely overthrowing the Crimson Stone Fort. Both the Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master's brows slightly furrowed. It was true that the Sword Alliance had appeared at the perfect timing. The Sword Alliance appeared when the opportunity they craved for since long ago finally arrived. Under such circumstances, they had to focus themselves on the Crimson Stone Fort and use all the time they had to prepare themselves so that they could obtain their heart's desires when the huge changes occurred in the Crimson Stone Fort. However, if the three of them unite and go against the Sword Alliance at that moment, putting aside the fact that the Sword Alliance was supported by Outer Realm forces which already made it difficult to take action against them, they would also need to expose many of their last resorts which greatly reduced their strength if they really planned to overthrow the Sword Alliance. In addition, Crimson Stone Fort would have more opportunities to prepare themselves. As such, it would mean that they would not have the absolute upper hand when going against the Crimson Stone Fort thereafter. There's nothing we can do as we can only either overthrow the Crimson Stone Fort or the Sword Alliance. I suggest we take action against the Crimson Stone Fort first. The Life and Death Tower Master slightly narrowed his eyes as he spoke in a low voice. In the end, the Sword Alliance is still a young force and their total strength won't be as domineeringly strong. Even if they are secretly supported by Outer Realm forces, it won't be so easy for those outside forces to infiltrate us as this is still the Danyang Holy Domain. The most they can do is supply some resources. The Sword Alliance has grown to its current capacity, which makes it almost impossible for them to further drastically increase their strength. All we need to do is send someone to keep an eye on the Sword Alliance's movements and stay alert. I too agree. It won't be too late to take action against the Sword Alliance after everything. The most important matter right now is to go against the Crimson Stone Fort. The three of us have been waiting and laying low for so many years just for such a great opportunity to overthrow the Crimson Stone Fort. Now that the opportunity is here, we cannot get distracted by a mere Sword Alliance, added Dongfang Clan Master with a serious tone. Nanwu, what do you think? Both the Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master looked over at Nanwu Palace Master. Nanwu Palace Master smiled softly. They'll support it since both of you have made your decision. According to the news Nanwu Palace received, the current Crimson Stone Fort is a tightened bowstring that any slight movement will trigger into a full-blown battle. It won't be long before that happens and the entire Crimson Stone Fort will be in complete chaos at that time. I'm sure it'll only take several decades or perhaps even less than 40 years for a great battle to completely erupt in the Crimson Stone Fort. We shall put up with the Sword Alliance during this period and unite to wipe them out after we've gotten rid of the Crimson Stone Fort. All right. Both the Life and Death Tower Master and Dongfang Clan Master also seriously nodded. The three of them came to a mutual understanding after the brief discussion and slowly left the place. The Sword Alliance's rise was inevitable. It was proven that the Sword Alliance had become a pinnacle force following Nanwu Palace, Life and Death Tower, and Dongfang Clan's silence. The Sword Alliance then started sweeping through the lands and easily gained control over the many territories that once belonged to the Heavenly Blood Alliance. Several forces that were located in between were also ruthlessly wiped out by the Sword Alliance at the same time to unite the Sword Alliance's original territory and those that belonged to the Heavenly Blood Alliance. The Sword Alliance's territory grew enormously after those forces' territories had fallen into the Sword Alliance's hands and soon already surpassed the strength of a first-rated force and were infinitely close to becoming a pinnacle force. In the Sword Alliance headquarters, the Sword Alliance had already taken over the Heavenly Blood Alliance and several second-rated forces' territories. However, Nanwu Palace, Life and Death Tower, and Dongfang Clan didn't react at all. It seems like those three families have acknowledged the rise of the Sword Alliance and won't take action against us before they wipe out Crimson Stone Fort. Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. He was able to guess those three Pinnacle Forces' plans. In the end, he had been keeping tabs with Yin Suer and Palace Keeper Si Zhen, allowing him to understand Crimson Stone Fort's current situation well. Those three forces were focusing their energy on the Crimson Stone Fort and could not spare any time for him. It was exactly what the Sword Alliance wanted. Announce my orders. We no longer need to be scrupulous toward anybody starting today. Presumptuously wipe out the surrounding forces and take over as many forces as possible. As for those Pinnacle forces, don't be afraid if their experts come forward. You're allowed to directly fight them off if possible, as I allow small fights, but remember not to corner them, ordered Jian Wushuang. Yes, Master. The Sword Alliance experts obediently received his order. Xiao Tiexin asked, Master, although the Sword Alliance can be counted as a pinnacle force right now, we haven't stabilized ourselves. Won't it be too over the top if we act so presumptuously? Those pinnacle forces won't allow us to expand so scrupulously, right? Jian Wushuang said, I'm sure they don't want to see that happen, but they definitely won't stop us. From the moment they decided to not take action against the Sword Alliance means they have silently acknowledged the Sword Alliance can take over a huge piece of territory and become a pinnacle force. What I'm doing right now is pressuring these pinnacle forces. Chapter 2769. Got the Divine Elixir Pills, Pressure. Xiao Tiexin was puzzled. I want Nanwu Palace, Life and Death Tower and Dongfang Clan, and the already worn Divine Demon Sect to know that my Sword Alliance is rising at an amazing speed and I have great ambitions to annex and expand. I want all of the top forces to feel that kind of pressure that I will take over them at just any time, Jian Wushuang explained. But why? Xiao Tiexin was still puzzled. It's very useful. You just can't see it yet. Anyway, you just do this according to my instructions. Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Yes. Xiao Tiexin stopped asking any more questions and quickly left. Jian Wushuang sat there alone with a gleam in his eyes. Yin Suer, I have put enough pressure on those top forces. It's up to you now. Although I will go all out to help you, you gotta show me what you've got a thing or two. You can't blame me if you're lousy yourself, Jian Wushuang mumbled. Jian Wushuang had done enough. He had severely ravaged Divine Demon Sect, grew Sword Alliance and scared the other three top forces stiff. The top forces were chary of acting rashly. Under those circumstances, Yin Suer should have had enough time for preparation. Sword Alliance expanded and grew its influence rapidly according to Jian Wushuang's plans and order. It was like a hungry beast subjugating the forces around them. Even the top forces were not spared. They were affected by Sword Alliance to a certain extent and they have had contentions. Fortunately, the altercation did not lead to nasty fights. In the long run, Sword Alliance had asserted a certain amount of pressure on those top forces. Life and Death Tower, Dongfang Clan, the badly hit Divine Demon Sect, and even Nanwu Palace felt tremendous pressure from Sword Alliance. That area of growth did not require Jian Wushuang to put in any more effort. While his followers were at work carrying out his plans, he had been working diligently on improving his strength and perception of the laws and sword principles. He made colossal progress with the 2 Fengtian scrolls in his hand. 3 years went past in a blink of an eye. In the past 3 years, Sword Alliance had had frequent activities. On the other hand, the other top forces in Danyang continent, including Crimson Stone Fort, seemed to be extremely calm. Everyone knew that something was brewing under the seemingly calm surface. One day, Jian Yi, the divine elixir pills you wanted has arrived. Palace Keeper Si Zhen sent a message. So soon? Jian Wushuang was over the moon when he got the news. 3 years ago, he handed the holy treasure-level battle saber sword to Yin Suer and he asked for 50,000 divine elixir pills in return. He thought that Yin Suer would need a longer time to deal with a holy treasure-level battle saber, but it took only 3 years for Yin Suer to sell it off. Jian Wushuang immediately set off for Holy Palace. When he arrived at Sacred Palace, Jian Wushuang only spotted Palace Keeper Si Zhen. There was no sight of Yin Suer. Then again, it was normal. Tensions were brewing within the Crimson Stone Fort factions during the period of time, and all the factions were doing their best to be prepared. Sewer would have had a lot to deal with. Alliance Master Su Han, it's been a long time. Palace Keeper Si Zhen let out a hearty laugh when he saw Jian Wushuang. Palace Keeper Si Zhen, don't tease me, Jian Wushuang said with a smile. I dare not tease you. You are now the Sword Alliance Master, whereby the Sword Alliance is the top force in Danyang continents. Even Divine Demon Sect has been defeated. I believe that even Fort Master can't afford to be smug and complacent around your achievement, Palace Keeper Si Zhen said so as to butter up Jian Wushuang. Then, Palace Keeper Si Zhen got serious and took out an interspatial ring. Jian Yi, this is given to you by the Fort Master. Your holy treasure level battle sword was sold to an undying saint for 65,000 divine elixir pills. According to what you've asked before, Fort Master has given you 50,000 divine elixir pills and the price for your damaged pinnacle heavenly treasure battle armor. We've rounded it up to 53,000 divine elixir pills for you here. Jian Wushuang took the interspatial ring and he made a careful count of the content with his soul power before nodding. Please help me to thank Fort Master for these. Fort Master is grateful for you. Palace Keeper Si Zhen smiled. Earlier, Fort Master had earned a small fortune and benefits from the 230 caddies royal blood gem you gave her. This time around, you have given her a greater amount of benefits with an extra of 15,000 divine elixir pills. They came in handy to provide sufficient resources. Major changes are about to take place in Crimson Stone Fort, and the Fort Master might not be so sure of her preparation without the blessing. From what I've heard, you are saying that your Fort Master is now very sure of how to deal with the situation? Jian Wushuang smiled. I can't say that we're very sure, but there is still a chance around 30 to 40%. This is just from the Fort Master's management. If Jian Yi and our Sword Alliance are willing to help each other at that time, then there is at least a certainty of preservation. 70% of it, said Palace Keeper Si Zhen. 30 to 40% is not a small amount of assurance. As for Sword Alliance, I will do my best to help out, Jian Wushuang said. That's good to hear. Palace Keeper Si Zhen was delighted. By the way, what's going on in Crimson Stone Fort? Jian Wushuang asked casually. Fortunately, although news came out that Saber Master has died, this piece of news has not been confirmed. Therefore, although there were some activities going on in the various factions of Crimson Stone Fort, they had yet to take any serious action. The factions are quietly accumulating and preparing their strength and power. Once the fuse is lighted, Crimson Stone Fort will be completely chaotic and wars will break out. No matter who wins the battle, Crimson Stone Fort would completely solve the never-ending disputes, said Palace Keeper Si Zhen. Then I will go off first. If something happens in Crimson Stone Fort, just send me a message, Jian Wushuang said. Okay. Palace Keeper Si Zhen nodded slightly. Jian Wushuang left immediately. After returning to Sword Alliance, he immediately found a secret chamber and began to cultivate in seclusion. 53,000 divine holy pills added up with the few divine holy pills obtained and accumulated by Saber Master before, it should be enough to make my strength even greater. Jian Wushuang clasped his hands tight expectantly. Let's start. Immediately, Jian Wushuang closed his eyes and began to refine those divine elixir pills. Chapter 2770, 25 years' time began to pass slowly. The addition of 53,000 divine elixir pills to the 60,000 divine elixir pills Jian Wushuang had gotten from Saber Master and the others made up to an immense bulk of divine elixir pills. It took an extremely long period of time to consume and refine all of those divine elixir pills. When all was done, Jian Wushuang's cultivation realm advanced another level as he wished. He had broken through from the high-level Grand Ultimate God realm to peak Grand Ultimate God realm. His overall strength had skyrocketed again. After the breakthrough of his cultivation realm, Jian Wushuang continued to spend time in seclusion because there had been no major changes in Crimson Stone Fort. With 2 Feng Tian scrolls in his hand, his understanding of the laws and sword principles was progressing at an expeditious speed. Another 25 years had passed in a flash. In those 25 years, Sword Alliance had completely evolved into a top force in Danyang continent, and they did that by overpowering another top force. The Sword Alliance enjoyed a high status, surpassing Divine Demon Sect. In fact, Life and Death Tower and Dongfang clans seemed to be a rank inferior to Sword Alliance. In the middle of a huge manor, the golden-robed Jian Wushuang stood with a sword in his hand above the clearing. His right hand was brandishing his sword. Buzz, 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 buzz. Multiple beams of sword light were produced. Each of those sword lights was extremely poignant and beautiful. The hazy sword light was fascinating to watch. The sword light could have easily captivated the opponent if he was fighting against someone. Space-time sword technique, 7th form, enchanted. Every single sword movement Jian Wushuang cast was from the enchanted form, but it had improved a great deal in power and speed as compared to his form more than 20 years ago. It was difficult to catch Jian Wushuang's shadow whenever he was performing the enchanted form. Perhaps, not even the high-level Grand Ultimate God could catch him. After a long time, Jian Wushuang finally stopped his hand's movements and the fascinating and beautiful sword light dissipated. Jian Wushuang retracted the sword and stood still, but his brows were furrowed. After more than 20 years of meditation, I have made considerable progress in my understanding of the space-time law and sword principles. I have also been continuously improving the enchanted form, and it has almost been perfected by me, yet I can't create the 8th form of space-time sword technique. Jian Wushuang felt a little helpless. Understanding of the laws grew more difficult in progress. Likewise with the understanding of sword principles. It was more difficult to create stronger tricks for sword techniques as one made progress. The 7th form was relatively easy when he created it, but after so many years, he still failed to create the 8th form. I probably can't rely on the understanding of the laws and sword principles to create the 8th form of sword technique. I might have to spar with opponents and gain insights from the battle, Jian Wushuang muttered. Suddenly, a tyrannical aura exploded in the surrounding void without any warning. However, it only stayed around for a very short time. Although it only appeared for a brief moment, Jian Wushuang noticed it because he was sensitive to his surroundings and he was so close to the source of the breath of aura. This breath of aura. The surprised Jian Wushuang immediately went toward the source of that breath of aura. Jian Wushuang saw a sloppy old man with messy hair walking out of a secret chamber as soon as he arrived at the spot. The sloppy old man was beaming wide. "Ha! Strange old Tong, congratulations." Jian Wushuang immediately stepped forward and laughed heartily. Strange old Tong was smiling when he heard Jian Wushuang. I didn't want to be too ostentatious and I immediately broke it off, but I didn't expect that Alliance Master Su Han would still be alerted. How can I not feel the unique breath of aura of a peak Grand Ultimate God? Jian Wushuang smiled. Peak Grand Ultimate God. Jian Wushuang was shocked because he noticed the breath of aura of a peak Grand Ultimate God. And that breath of aura was from Strange Old Tong who stood before him. Strange Old Tong has stayed in the high-level Grand Ultimate God realm for a long, long time, during which he attempted to break through many times but he fell short every single time. Strange Old Tong finally broke through and set foot on the peak Grand Ultimate God realm he dreamed of. He had made extensive preparation and most importantly he had the Huangji Golden Pill given by Jian Wushuang. The Huangji Golden Pill was coveted by so many Grand Ultimate Gods for obvious reasons. Jian Wushuang received the 5 Huangji Golden Pills from the secret realm and gave them to the 5 Grand Ultimate Gods he recruited. Among them, Grand Ultimate God Ju Exin, Strange Old Snake, Mr. Ning achieved breakthroughs through the Huangji Golden Pills. Lan Junju failed, unfortunately. Strange Old Tong did not consume the Huangji Golden Pill right after he got hold of it. Instead, he spent a lot of time preparing carefully. He had been preparing for more than 10 years and 5 years ago, he finally began to cultivate in seclusion. 5 years had passed and when Strange Old Tong appeared again, he had finally completed his mission. I thought that I would stop at the high-level Grand Ultimate God all my life and not be able to move any further, but now it seems that I'm lucky. Of course, this is mainly because of the Huangji Golden Pill that you gave to me. Otherwise, I would probably fail once again. I'll always remember your kindness, Strange Old Tong solemnly said. You've been polite, I used the Huangji Golden Pill to recruit you, strange old Tong. I give you the Huangji Golden Pill and you will fight for Sword Alliance for 1,000 years. This is a fair deal, how can it be called a kind act? Jian Wushuang said with a smile. Anyway, I was able to break through all because of you. In addition, you were the reason the divine demon sect was severely ravaged. I won't say anything more. In short, for the rest of these 1,000 years, I will do whatever you ask for as long as it doesn't go against my principles, said strange old Tong. It is nice to hear this from you. Jian Wushuang smiled, but he was quite happy. Strange old Tong Lao was ranked top among the high-level Grand Ultimate Gods and he was extremely powerful. He could face off 1 or 2 ordinary peak Grand Ultimate Gods. After he had finally made a breakthrough, his strength had skyrocketed. He was estimated to be rather powerful among the many peak Grand Ultimate Gods. Master, someone is asking to meet you outside the Sword Castle, said Xiao Tiexin. Who? Jian Wushuang sounded uninterested. I don't know, he doesn't want to tell us his name and identity, but he has shown his breadth of aura. He is a high-level Grand Ultimate God, quite a powerful one, Xiao Tiexin said. A powerful high-level Grand Ultimate God, but unwilling to reveal his name and identity is here to see me? Jian Wushuang raised his brows and then smiled. Bring him in. Yes. Xiao Tiexin responded and went off to bring the visitor in. Strange old Tong, I guess I'm the only one who knows that you have broken through to the peak Grand Ultimate God realm. Don't expose your strength for the time being and disguise your breadth of aura, Jian Wushuang said. Strange old Tong breaking through to the peak Grand Ultimate God realm was equivalent to Sword Alliance acquired another ace in the hole. Naturally, Jian Wushuang would not want the secret advantage to be known just yet, especially when things were at a delicate stage. Sure, but I'm not good with the disguise, so I might be able to cheat those high-level Grand Ultimate Gods but not the powerful peak Grand Ultimate Gods, said strange old Tong. Then don't meet with those peak Grand Ultimate Gods. You will stay in Sword Alliance during this time, and I believe that no peak Grand Ultimate God will be so boring to come here and investigate your cultivation realm, said Jian Wushuang. That's true. Strange old Tong smiled and quickly masked his breath of aura. Jian Wushuang and strange old Tong waited quietly in the manor, and it did not take long for Xiao Tiexin to lead a man in Amon in a blood-colored robe. The man in a blood-colored robe was well covered up. His face was completely shrouded under the blood-colored robe and no one could see his appearance clearly. Indeed, he had a tyrannical breadth of aura. He was one of the best among the high-level Grand Ultimate God, probably no inferior to strange old Tong before his breakthrough. He is... Jian Wushuang and strange old Tong both stared quizzically at the person. The blood-colored robe man arrived in front of Jian Wushuang and strange old Tong, but he did not immediately speak. His exposed, deep-set eyes glanced at Xiao Tiexin next to him. Exen heir, you may go first. Jian Wushuang waved his hand. Yes. Xiao Tiexin nodded and left instantly. I don't know who you are, please show me who you are, Jian Wushuang said indifferently. The man in a blood-colored robe stood in front of Jian Wushuang and looked around to confirm that there was no one else around. Then he slowly removed his blood-colored robe, revealing an extremely strong and sturdy figure. He was dark and he had strong muscles. The surface of his divine body was covered with faint blood-colored thunderbolts. He raised his head slightly to show an extremely cold and somewhat domineering face. A faint blood-colored thunderbolt flashed in each of his pupils. Jian Wushuang and strange old Tong were both taken aback to see who it was. Blood Thunder King. Chapter 2772. Blood Thunder King. Jian Wushuang and strange old Tong were surprised to see the person who came forth. Blood Thunder King. He was the leader of one of the 3 strongest factions in Crimson Stone Fort. Not only was he a terrifying high-level Grand Ultimate God himself, but he also controlled the strongest Crimson Stone official army in Danyang continent, and there were more than 10 known Grand Ultimate Gods who reported to him. Blood Thunder King's faction was able to compete with the Yin Suer and Yunshan factions and keep them in check within the Crimson Stone Fort. What made him make the trip to see Jian Wushuang in person? After a brief moment of shock, Jian Wushuang recovered his senses. Unexpectedly, the famous Blood Thunder King would come forth to my small and insignificant Sword Alliance today. You've graced Sword Alliance with your presence. Jian Wushuang stood up and said politely, Alliance Master Su Han must be joking. If Sword Alliance is just a small and insignificant organization, then the various forces on Danyang continent may be nothing at all. Blood Thunder King chuckled. Jian Wushuang smiled slightly and waved. Please sit down. Blood Thunder King sat down at the stone table in front of him. Jian Wushuang waved his hand to keep the chessboard on the stone table, and then he took out some fruit and wine. Blood Thunder King felt very at home. He grabbed a fruit with his big hand and ate it. Jian Wushuang looked at Blood Thunder King playfully. Blood Thunder King, you are here in person today. What's the matter? I'm here to discuss something important with you, Alliance Master Su Han. Blood Thunder King wiped his mouth and said, You want to discuss something important with me? Jian Wushuang's expression remained unchanged. Alliance Master Su Han, as the leader of Sword Alliance, I believe you are aware of the situation in Danyang continent during this period of time? Blood Thunder King made the opening remark. Of course. Jian Wushuang smiled. Danyang continent is very calm during this time except for Sword Alliance, who has been discontented. The situation has not changed much from before. Very calm? Alliance Master Su Han, are you trying to fool around with little kids? Blood Thunder King sneered. The current Danyang continent is like a raging storm. Drastic changes may happen at any time, and the source of this storm is Crimson Stone Fort. Don't you know, Alliance Master Su Han? What can I do if I knew about it? It's your own business no matter what happens in Crimson Stone Fort. What does it have to do with Sword Alliance? Jian Wushuang commented calmly, like he was uninterested. It has nothing to do with Sword Alliance? I don't think so. Blood Thunder King wore a strange smile. What do you mean? Jian Wushuang looked at Blood Thunder King. Alliance Master Su Han, you knew that there are many factions in Crimson Stone Fort and we are fighting incessantly. Among these factions, the factions led by Crimson Stone Fort Master Yin Suer and Grand Elder Yun Shan are very powerful. Blood Thunder King said. Jian Wushuang interrupted Blood Thunder King. Really? As far as I know, there are 3 powerful factions in Crimson Stone Fort. Besides the factions led by Yin Suer and Yun Shan, Blood Thunder King yourself is leading another faction that is not weak at all. You can keep the other 2 major factions in check. Keep them in check? Blood Thunder King smiled bitterly. If it's the usual small fights and conflicts, indeed my faction does not fear them. However, if a big battle breaks out, then my faction is considered weak. After all, the battle mainly relies on the combat power of Grand Ultimate Gods. The Heaven Ultimate Gods can't do much at all. Well, they can't do much in the Crimson Stone official army, which is under my control. And in terms of the combat power of Grand Ultimate Gods, I have 10 of them, and it seems like a lot of them under my command, but both Yin Suer and Yun Shan have accumulated power in the dark for a long time. They are much better than me. I don't know for sure how much stronger Yin Suer and Yun Shan are at this stage. Besides, they are both peak Grand Ultimate Gods with the strongest combat power. They are not people whom I can afford to challenge. Therefore, if a battle breaks out, my faction is far behind the 2 of them. Therefore, they would be the 2 people who would reintegrate the factions if there is a major change in Crimson Stone Fort. However, no matter which of them is in charge, it's probably not a good thing for Sword Alliance. Why do you think so? Jian Wushuang smiled and looked at the Blood Thunder King. It's very simple. It's all because of your Sword Alliance background. Blood Thunder King smiled strangely. Alliance Master Su Han, don't pretend like you're confused now. If I guess it right, you came from the Outer Realm? You probably have support from the Outer Realm all this while. How do you know? Jian Wushuang frowned. He thought Blood Thunder King was funny to make the assumption. Why would the Outer Realm support him? What a joke. Jian Wushuang had always been working purely on his own. Yin Suer probably gave him a little help, but he gave Yin Suer much more in return. Blood Thunder King had obviously misunderstood Jian Wushuang. It's very simple. The rise of the Sword Alliance is too fast and you all have too many resources. How could you possibly be able to own so many resources? There must be a big force behind you. I believe no one in the entire Danyang Holy Domain has the ability to support a top force like yours. Naturally, only those outer realms with an undying saint in their management have the ability to support you. Blood Thunder King smiled. He was pleased with himself. Well, I admit that I do have the support of someone behind me, but what does it have to do with the internal conflicts in Crimson Stone Fort? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course it matters. Blood Thunder King smiled. Alliance Master Su Han, if I can guess your background right, I believe In Suer, Yunshan and the other top forces like Nanhua Palace, Life and Death Tower, and Dongfang Clan can do the same. Those in power would naturally be disgusted and repulsive at you who have the support from an external force. The reason why they haven't acted on your Sword Alliance right now is that the timing is wrong. Crimson Stone Fort will be ending our years of internal conflicts real soon, and the top forces like Nanhua Palace are coveting us. That's why no one has time for Sword Alliance at this point in time. But once the battle is over and Crimson Stone Fort has calmed down, Crimson Stone Fort will immediately attack you Sword Alliance no matter who is in charge. Even the top forces like Nanhua Palace would join hands to go against you. At that instance, unless the undying saint behind you comes out in person, your Sword Alliance will have no ability to resist and you'd be expelled from the Danyang Holy Domain. Well, that's true. Jian Wushuang nodded pretentiously. But now, there is a great opportunity in front of you, Alliance Master Su Han. You can change the fate of Sword Alliance completely. I wonder if you're willing to grab the opportunity? Blood Thunder King smiled strangely. Chapter 2773, Join Hands. I don't know what Blood Thunder King you are referring to as a great opportunity? Jian Wushuang asked curiously. Join hands with me. Blood Thunder King suggested. With the current situation in Sword Alliance, if you are willing to join hands with me, the two of us would rise to be stronger than In Suer or Yunshan. By then, I will be the ruler of Crimson Stone Fort and I will try my best to help Sword Alliance to sweep down the top forces like Nanhua Palace, Life and Death Tower, Divine Demon Sect, and Dongfang Clan. From then on, this huge Danyang Holy Domain will be the both of us. What do you think? You want me to join hands with you? Jian Wushuang laughed mockingly. There can't be two tigers in a mountain. After you have complete control of Crimson Stone Fort, will you be willing to share Danyang Holy Domain with Sword Alliance? Of course I am willing. At that time, if the undying saint behind you agrees, I can even bring Crimson Stone Fort and surrender to the undying saint, said Blood Thunder King. Jian Wushuang's pupils shrank. Not only that he's willing to jointly manage Danyang Holy Domain, but he's also willing to surrender Crimson Stone Fort? Blood Thunder King. Blood Thunder King, why should I trust you? If you betray me afterward, what should I do? Jian Wushuang looked at Blood Thunder King. It's very simple. No matter how I'm just a high-level grand ultimate god myself. Even if I dare to betray you, I don't have the courage to betray the undying saint behind you. I don't think he'll be able to live much longer if I were to get on his wrong side, said Blood Thunder King. Blood Thunder King believed that Jian Wushuang came from the outer realm, and he also believed that Jian Wushuang had a powerful force backing him up and the leader of the force was an undying saint. Jian Wushuang's eyes sank slightly after hearing Blood Thunder King. Well, I can't call the shots for such an important matter, so let me pass on the message to my leader and he will make the decision personally. Blood Thunder King, please hang on a minute. Okay. Blood Thunder King was very patient and he was just waiting by the side. Jian Wushuang pretended to take out a token and then feigned a look like he was communicating with someone else. Blood Thunder King could not see what Jian Wushuang was doing. He thought Jian Wushuang was talking to his leader. After a while, Jian Wushuang withdrew the token. Blood Thunder King, my leader had agreed to join hands with you and agreed that Sword Alliance will help you to gain control over Crimson Stone Fort, but under one condition, said Jian Wushuang. What is it? Blood Thunder King peered at Jian Wushuang. What my leader values is the many resources possessed by Danyang Holy Domain. Therefore, after the end of the battle, Crimson Stone Fort that will be under your control must completely surrender to him and he shall enjoy 80% of the various resources in Danyang Holy Domain when you get the remaining 20%, said Jian Wushuang. He wants 80%? Blood Thunder King's pupils shrank. He gritted his teeth and nodded. All right. In addition, my leader warns that you'd better not fool him. If you dare to have any other thoughts, he will personally come to Danyang Holy Domain and your fate will be miserable, warned Jian Wushuang. That's for sure. Blood Thunder King smiled awkwardly. In that case, Blood Thunder King, I wish us happy working together. Jian Wushuang raised the wine glass on the table and smiled slightly. Okay. Blood Thunder King drank a large glass of wine with Jian Wushuang. Then, Blood Thunder King got up and prepared to go. Alliance Master Su Han, this is my message token. The great change in Crimson Stone Fort should happen anytime soon and I will use this message token to send you a message at that time. Blood Thunder King handed his message token to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang nodded after he received the message token and Blood Thunder King quickly left. Unexpectedly, Blood Thunder King came to me and offered to join hands with me. This is really interesting. Jian Wushuang looked at the message token in his hand. His expression was rather weird. Alliance Master Su Han, do you think that Blood Thunder King really wants to join hands with you? Strange Old Tong, who was next to Jian Wushuang, looked around. I don't know. Jian Wushuang shook his head. However, whether he is sincere or not, it has nothing to do with me. After all, I never thought of joining hands with him. Strange Old Tong raised his eyebrows and he knew what was on Jiang Wushuang's mind immediately. In a void in the distance outside Sword Alliance's lair, Blood Thunder King, who was once again shrouded in the blood-colored robe, looked extremely mysterious. He pulled to a stop abruptly. Come out! Blood Thunder King cried softly. Buzz! A ray of light condensed in the void in front of him, and soon a figure in a black robe emerged. The old man in a black robe looked like he was intractable. He had very big eyes. As soon as he appeared, he immediately looked at Blood Thunder King. What is the result? Did Su Han agree? Blood Thunder King nodded. Not only did he agree, but he also admitted that he came from the outer realm and there is indeed an undying saint backing him up. That's for sure. Otherwise, Sword Alliance cannot rise so fast. The question now is that I don't know which outer realm he is from. Did Su Han tell you just now? The black robe old man asked. No. Blood Thunder King shook his head. However, 9 Realms of Golden Crow probably has Dragon Phoenix Pavilion and Star Picking Pavilion and very few large forces with Undying Saints. For those who are near Danyang Holy Domain and are willing to get involved with what's going on in Danyang Holy Domain, you should know more about who they are apart from you Heavenly Modest Palace. Blood Thunder King looked at the old man in a black robe. He was very clear about the identity of the old man in a black robe. The old man came from the outer realm, from a force called the Heavenly Modest Palace. Heavenly Modest Palace had a great reputation in 9 Realms of Golden Crow and they had a powerful Undying Saint sitting behind it. The old man in a black robe came to Danyang Holy Domain a long time ago and after working hard for a long period of time, he reached an agreement with Blood Thunder King. Therefore, Blood Thunder King, just like what Jian Wushuang believed, was there to gain Jian Wushuang's trust. Blood Thunder King had never thought of joining forces with Sword Alliance, he just wanted to use Sword Alliance. As for the Undying Saint backing Jian Wushuang up, he was not afraid at all. After all, Blood Thunder King also has an Undying Saint behind him. I don't care who is supporting Sword Alliance. Chapter 2774. A point of no return in the Great Hall. The tall and beautiful Yin Suer stood at the highest area as she excluded extreme pressure. Underneath her, 3 other people were standing there apart from Palace Keeper Si Zhen. Those 3 were Grand Ultimate Gods and they were extremely loyal towards Yin Suer. They were people she trusted the most. Has the news been confirmed? Yin Suer looked downwards. An elder with white hair among them nodded politely. Yes, although there's no conclusion yet, it is a fact that Yun Shan had already started contacting the people from that side. Humph, this old B** starred. Yin Suer's facial expression turned into a strict one. There's no other choice, we have to immediately take action. Palace Keeper Si Zhen and the 3 others also had darkened expressions on their faces. They knew about Yin Suer's helplessness and could also understand her decision. Make your preparations. We will take action in 10 days. Insuer said. 10 days? Palace Keeper Si Zhen and the others nodded in seriousness. After some time, the three others left continuously and only Palace Keeper Si Zhen was left standing there. Fort Master, should we inform Jian Yi about this right now so that he and his Sword Alliance can make the preparations? Palace Keeper Si Zhen said. We should inform him, but you don't need to do it this time. I will personally talk to him. Insuer said. All right. Palace Keeper Si Zhen nodded and also left. Only Insuer was left in the large hall. With a flip of her delicate hand, Insuer took a token out and started communication. Jian Wushuang, who was sitting at the stone table in Sword Alliance's garden, immediately responded. The Fort Master has personally contacted me. This is really rare. Jian Wushuang smiled playfully. Normally, his communication with Insuer would go through Palace Keeper Si Zhen, but Insuer had directly contacted him this time. Jian Yi, there's something that I need to personally tell you. Insuer sounded extremely serious. You sound so serious. Do you plan to take action now? Jian Wushuang's expression slightly changed. Yes. I've given my orders. My people will take action 10 days later, and our aim is Yun Shan's faction. Insuer said. 10 days? Isn't that too soon? Are you extremely well prepared? Jian Wushuang frowned. No. Insuer shook her head. But we are at a point of no return. What do you mean? Jian Wushuang was really puzzled this time. Although there was a lot going on in the Crimson Stone Fort right now and every faction was preparing themselves with all they had. However, Insuer obviously had the upper hand as she had the support of a huge amount of resources. Apart from that, she was greatly burdened. It did not matter if she did not take action, she had to be completely prepared once she took action. However, it seemed irrational for her to proactively take action right now without complete preparation. Couple of days ago, my people received news that the old man, Yun Shan, seemed to have received some news that the power I hold right now is much stronger than his, so he's looking for ways to search for external help. Within these couple of days, Yun Shan has already gained contact with Nanwu Palace. Insuer said. Nanwu Palace? Jian Wushuang's facial expression slightly changed. Nanwu Palace was only behind the Crimson Stone Fort among the pinnacle forces in the Danyang continent. Nanwu Palace Master was even the publicly recognized expert in the Danyang continent. If Yun Shan's faction connected with Nanwu Palace and worked together, Insuer's faction would be placed in a passive position. Have they formed an alliance? Jian Wushuang asked. Not at this moment, but Yun Shan shows obvious signs about it. If I continue to wait, he might really join forces with Nanwu Palace and I wouldn't be the one handling them later on, they will be the ones working together to wipe me out. Insuer, who was on the other side of the token, was silent for some time after Jian Wushuang spoke. Moments later, Insuer spoke once again. If the three pinnacle forces, Nanwu Palace, Life and Death Tower and Dongfang Clan came attacking when I'm battling for my life with Yun Shan, both of us would not be able to withstand them. This is also why I'm not fully prepared. That is why my current plan is to carry out a sudden attack 10 days later, when Yun Shan is having a secret meeting with the experts under his leadership. I plan to try my best to defeat all the experts in Yun Shan's faction within the shortest period of time with absolute strength. The best way is to leave no time for those pinnacle forces to react. Among these 6 people, there was one older and one younger person apart from Grand Ultimate God Ju Exin, Old Snake, and Ying and Lan Junju. They were also Grand Ultimate Gods and were members of the Elder Group in the Sword Alliance. Couple of decades ago, the entire Danyang continent was shocked when news about the Sword Alliance defeating the Divine Demon sect was spreaded out. The Sword Alliance's prestige had achieved a shocking high within that period of time. Within these couple of decades, the Sword Alliance tried its best in developing and attracted experts with a huge number of resources and cost. These 2 Grand Ultimate Gods were experts who accepted their invitation. Among these 2 people, one of them is a high-level Grand Ultimate God while the other is only a primary-level Grand Ultimate God. The reason they accepted the invitation from the Sword Alliance was not only because of the sufficient pay the Sword Alliance provided, The most important point was that these two people had great grudges against the divine demon sect. They promised because they felt that they had been avenged when they saw how the Sword Alliance defeated the divine demon sect in a face-to-face battle and caused the divine demon sect to be badly wounded. The addition of these two people had once again enriched the Sword Alliance's higher-level combat power. Right now, these Grand Ultimate Gods followed Jian Wushuang's orders and were waiting in silence. They were able to see that Jian Wushuang was definitely planning something huge for gathering all of them over at this moment. However, Jian Wushuang did not say what they were doing and they had no idea either. In the highest throne, Jian Wushuang was also waiting there with his eyes closed. After waiting for around half an hour, Yin Suer had finally sent a message. Jian Yi, we've started our journey and we will be at Bane City within an hour. Yin Suer said, Bane City? That is where the battlefield will be? Jian Wushuang asked. Yes. Yun Shan is having a discussion with the experts under his leadership in Bane City. We shall carry out a sudden raid once we arrive there and there will be a large movement by then. The experts of different forces will be immediately alarmed, especially Blood Thunder King. He is one of our Crimson Stone Fort's higher management and he's very familiar with some of our spatial passages. Once a huge battle happens in Bane City, he would be able to rush over speedily via the spatial passages. Your Sword Alliance needs to think of a way to stop him. Yin Suer said. Understood. I will start my journey now. Jian Wushuang interrupted the communication and looked towards the Grand Ultimate Gods below him. Old Snake, stay and take care of our base. Jian Wushuang ordered. Yes, Master. Old Snake nodded without any complaints. The others shall leave with me right now. With a wave of Jian Wushuang's hands, Old Tong, Grand Ultimate God Ju Exen, and Ing, Lan Junju and two other Grand Ultimate Gods that recently joined the Sword Alliance immediately started their journey under Jian Wushuang's lead. They had been traveling via some wormholes throughout the entire journey and had arrived in a void near to Bane City within a short amount of time. The Bane City is located not far from here and that place has always been the Crimson Stone Fort's territory. Alliance Master Su Han, what are we doing here? Grand Ultimate God Ju Exen asked. Stop with the questions as you will know when it's time. Jian Wushuang only smiled indifferently and did not make much explanation. Chapter 2776, the beginning of the Great Battle. The same time when Jian Wushuang and the others arrived at the OU Thankserts of Bane City. Many figures were standing in another void. These figures were exuding extremely strong divine power. Their divine power obviously meant that they had achieved the level of Grand Ultimate God. However, the crucial part was that there were more than 20 figures standing in this void and that meant that there were more than 20 Grand Ultimate Gods. It had to be known that there were many factions in the Crimson Stone Fort and Blood Thunder King's faction was publicly known for having the most Grand Ultimate Gods. However, they also only had around a dozen of them. Standing in front of these 20 over Grand Ultimate Gods were the extremely beautiful yet strict Yin Suer. She looked at the huge city in front of her with a cold look in her eyes. It's almost time, let's take action right away. Yin Suer had a serious expression on her face. With the wave of her hand, the 20 over Grand Ultimate Gods behind her immediately started moving. These 20 over Grand Ultimate Gods instantly turned into 20 over streams of light while Yin Suer also went skimming out. They appeared in the void on top of Bane City within the blink of an eye. Rumble point one after another, huge coercive forces directly came suppressing down. Yun Shan and the others who were hiding in a secret chamber located in Bane City were instantly alerted. Then, a large number of people directly rose up. Yin Suer. A strict glance was released from the eyes of a short elder with young features and old man's hair. His glance came exploding towards Yin Suer like two lightning bolts. The divine power that belonged to a peak Grand Ultimate God was also released from his body. This short elder was the person controlling another large faction in the Crimson Stone Fort, Yun Shan. Are you finally taking action? Yun Shan had a cold look in his eyes. Yun Shan, we've been fighting for so many years and we should end it today. Yin Suer's voice could be heard in the entire Bane City. Everybody kill. Bump, 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 bump. More than 20 over grand ultimate gods behind Yin Suer immediately took action and went rushing down like extremely hungry beasts. Block their way. Yun Shan also yelled out with a low voice, and around a dozen grand ultimate gods around him also came rushing forward fiercely with overwhelming aura. A total of almost 40 grand ultimate gods from both sides instantaneously started fighting one another. The huge battle completely broke out. It started. Jian Wushuang and the others stood in the void outside of Bane City. Although they were some distance away, they were still able to clearly see what was happening in the city and felt the waves of scary hums exploding in the city at the same time. Behind Jian Wushuang, Old Tong, Grand Ultimate God Zhu Exen, and Ying and Lan Junju also had different expressions on their faces. Crimson Stone Fort. It's a fight between two of their strongest factions. That is the Crimson Stone Fort Master, Yin Suer, while the other is the Crimson Stone Fort's first elder, Yun Shan. Rumors state that these two have been fighting for many years and have gone through all sorts of fights since the falling of the Crimson Stone Saint. Are they finally ending things now? There are so many grand ultimate gods. Didn't they say that these two factions of the Crimson Stone Fort only have around 7 to 8 grand ultimate gods? Even Blood Thunder King, that has the most grand ultimate gods, have around a dozen only. However, why are there so many here? There should be around a total of 40 grand ultimate gods here, right? This is the first time I've seen a battle between so many grand ultimate gods. Old Tong and the others secretly sighed. Grand ultimate gods were definitely the strongest experts in the Danyang continent. Under normal circumstances, one could easily build a first-class force in the Danyang continent with 2 to 3 grand ultimate gods, while pinnacle forces had around 1 dozen of them. There were around 40 of them here. In the Danyang Holy Domain, only the Crimson Stone Fort was capable of this. Even Jian Wushuang had to gasp with admiration that a lean camel was still bigger than a horse. It looks like Yin Suer has taken over the other 4 smaller factions in the Crimson Stone Fort. Those small factions have a couple of grand ultimate gods and they all listen to her right now. She really has some strong ways. Jian Wushuang mumbled. He had to admit that Yin Suer really had some tricks up her sleeves, or it would be impossible for her to support the Crimson Stone Fort alone for so many years. There were currently a total of 20 over grand ultimate gods under Yin Suer's lead. All of them were much stronger in both volume and quality, even their higher level combat power. In the void located in the middle of Bane City, Yin Suer was having a combat with Yun Shan, and the two of them were pushing their power to the limit. However, Jian Wushuang could obviously see that Yin Suer definitely had the upper hand in this battle. It could be said that Yin Suer's side had an absolute upper hand in both higher level combat power and the fights between the grand ultimate gods. She definitely has an advantage, and it's quite a huge one. However, it would be difficult to completely defeat Yun Shan's faction or kill Yun Shan in a short period of time based on this advantage alone. The other forces must have received news now that this battle has exploded, and they must be rushing over right now. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. As he was thinking about this, the token given by Blood Thunder King and stored in his interspatial ring immediately reacted. Alliance Master Su Han, Yin Suer has already taken action. Please hurry to Bane City. There was a hint of anxiety in Blood Thunder King's voice. Blood Thunder King obviously did not expect Yin Suer to take action so speedily, as she directly found a chance to carry out a sudden raid. Apart from that, she did such a good job in keeping it a secret that no information was leaked previously. I've already received news and am rushing my way over. I will be there momentarily. Jian Wushuang purposely sent a message. Moments later, he took the token up again. Blood Thunder King, I've already rushed over to the void outside Bane City and am in this direction. Jian Wushuang informed Blood Thunder King of his location before glancing at Old Tong. Old Tong, Blood Thunder King is coming in a short while. In order to be safe, hide yourself. You can take action after I've sent you a message. Jian Wushuang said. All right. Old Tong nodded and went skimming towards the surrounding void by himself. Moments later, more than a dozen figures came rushing over. A total of 16 people arrived, and every one of them had strong divine power. They were all in the Grand Ultimate God level, but they were only primary level and high-level Grand Ultimate Gods. There were no peak Grand Ultimate Gods among them. Alliance Master Su-Han, you travel so speedily. A smile immediately appeared on Blood Thunder King's face when he saw Jian Wushuang. Coincidentally, there's a spatial passage located in the territory belonging to my Sword Alliance that connects to the void nearby to Bane City. That is why I arrived sooner. Jian Wushuang said. I see. Blood Thunder King raised his eyebrows before turning his attention to the Grand Ultimate Gods behind Jian Wushuang. Why aren't Old Tong and Old Snake here? Blood Thunder King asked in surprise. My Sword Alliance has been continuously expanding recently and we've attracted many strong opponents. I have to keep some power in the Sword Alliance to attend to them during this mission. I hope that you can understand. Jian Wushuang said. Chapter 2783, Horrendous Killing. The Grand Ultimate Gods under Yin Suer's lead had suffered some degree of wounds during the intense battle with Yun Shan's battle, and they had used up a lot of their divine power. This battle right now is obviously much more obvious compared to the previous one, and much more of their divine power would be depleted. I don't think they would be able to continue for much longer. Apart from that, there aren't any movements from Nanwal Palace, the Life and Death Tower, Divine Demon Sect, and Dongfang Clan until now. We have to be careful of them too. This cannot continue and we have to end this battle as soon as possible. Jian Wushuang looked across the battlefield with cold eyes. He then made a move and had already rushed towards the void in front of him. At the same time, Blood Mountain Sword had already appeared in his hands. Jian Wushuang had an extremely high understanding of the space-time law, and his figure was like a ghost under the effects of the space-time law power. He easily appeared behind a high-level Grand Ultimate God that was from the Heavenly Modest Palace. The high-level Grand Ultimate God from the Heavenly Modest Palace also had a strong ability to perceive danger, and he was able to instantly detect Jian Wushuang's arrival. You want to sneak up on me? In your dreams? This high-level Grand Ultimate God yelled out loudly, and the horrendous divine power had risen as his surroundings were transformed into complete darkness. However, before this high-level Grand Ultimate God could take action, Jian Wushuang had already pointed his finger from afar. The random point of a finger that looked normal consisted of the space-time law and was filled with the exquisite cosmic mysteries. Without any warnings, the high-level Grand Ultimate God from the Heavenly Modest Palace had been directly paused in the void and failed to make any moves. With a simple stride forward, Jian Wushuang's figure had rushed past the high-level Grand Ultimate God. The first one. Jian Wushuang smiled. A huge head was directly sent flying up. Space-time had just recovered when the high-level Grand Ultimate God died, and he happened to see his head leaving his body. He could not help but widened his eyes, and his consciousness soon disappeared. A finger-pointing heavenly technique together with the speediest space-time sword technique, and the fact that the space-time law contains space-time blades, the strong killing power is capable of directly piercing through the defensive armor. It's so easy for me to kill high-level Grand Ultimate Gods right now with the combination of these three. Jian Wushuang mumbled. 30 years ago, he had used a finger-pointing heavenly technique to kill at will during the face-on battle between the Sword Alliance and Divine Demon Sect. This caused the complete defeat of the Divine Demon Sect. The current Jian Wushuang was definitely stronger, and his understanding towards the space-time law was naturally higher. Activating a finger-pointing heavenly technique again meant that it was really easy to kill usual high-level Grand Ultimate Gods when he paired it with the space-time law and space-time sword technique. Jian Wushuang once again skimmed forward and appeared beside the second high-level Grand Ultimate God within the blink of an eye. This high-level Grand Ultimate God was an expert under Blood Thunder King's lead. A finger-pointing heavenly technique was used, and the same scene happened again. As the sword light skimmed through, several dozens of space-time blades were contained in the sword light. The horrendous killing power was not something the high-level Grand Ultimate Gods could withstand with the physical protection ability on their outer body layer. Jian Wushuang still easily beheaded this high-level Grand Ultimate God. Second one. Jian Wushuang's figure once again came swaying out. The third one. The head of another high-level Grand Ultimate God was directly chopped off, and Aning, who was fighting with this high-level Grand Ultimate God, was also stunned and did not manage to react. Within moments, 3 experts had continuously died under Jian Wushuang's sword. Apart from that, Jian Wushuang had a high-level insight, and he only killed high-level Grand Ultimate Gods while ignoring primary-level Grand Ultimate Gods. The fourth one. Another high-level Grand Ultimate God was beheaded. With the continuous death of 4 high-level Grand Ultimate Gods, both the experts from the Heavenly Modest Palace and under Blood Thunder King's lead obviously panicked. Why is this guy so strong? He's really strong, and they are high-level Grand Ultimate Gods. However, they are like animals in front of him and are simply killed? Even a real peak Grand Ultimate God would not kill high-level Grand Ultimate Gods unscrupulously like him. What is really going on with him? It's a secret technique. He has a very special secret technique, and he's able to make the space-time a person is in go into a stagnant state within a short period of time so that they would lose the ability to react. Space-time stagnation? A Grand Ultimate God like him has such a secret technique? Scary. Such a secret technique is really so scary. Even high-level Grand Ultimate Gods can be killed so easily. Wouldn't it be even easier for him to kill us? Heavenly Modest Palace and the experts under Blood Thunder King's lead were terrified by Jian Wushuang's horrendous killing. They were so frightened that their heads were numb and almost burst. Chen Kong, who was in a heated fight with Yin Suer, naturally saw this scene, and his facial expression immediately changed. This guy's ways are really weird. This is really weird. If we allow him to continue killing, not many of these 10 high-level Grand Ultimate Gods I brought over can stay alive. Chen Kong's facial expression darkened before bursting out. Su Dao, go, kill him. Among the 10 high-level Grand Ultimate Gods from the Heavenly Modest Palace, more than half of the high-level Grand Ultimate Gods stood on the top. However, there was another person who was at the highest point, and he was even capable of having a forced fight with the usual peak Grand Ultimate Gods. This person was Su Dao, a thin, young man in silver robes. After he heard Chen Kong's outburst, Su Dao immediately got rid of his opponent and turned into a stream of light before he came bursting towards Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang originally planned to continue in searching for his 5th target and kill the 5th high-level Grand Ultimate God. However, A strong wave of aura suddenly came surging towards him and directly covered him entirely. Jian Wushuang also immediately saw the young man in silver robes that came rushing towards him. This person seems to be quite strong. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows and went towards the figure. As he got closer to this young man in silver robes, Jian Wushuang once again pointed the pointer of his right hand. It was still a finger-pointing heavenly technique, as this skill was a killing weapon towards usual trainers and not many people were able to withstand the attack. The invisible space-time law power started its effect. This power was also implemented in the space-time Su Dao was in. Su Dao's figure suddenly paused in the middle of the sky as he had obviously entered the state of space-time stagnation. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently as he was prepared to move forward and kill Su Dao. However, Su Dao's eyelids suddenly fluttered and his figure once again went skimming forward. What? Jian Wushuang's facial expression slightly changed and the look in his eyes darkened. I see, it looks like this person is also an expert who's good with the space-time law and has an extremely high understanding towards the space-time law. A finger-pointing heavenly technique was a divine technique of the space-time law. This skill was undefeatable when it came to experts that practiced other laws, even when the experts were of higher levels. However, the effects were not as strong when it came to experts who also practiced the space-time law. Chapter 2784, Beheaded. Although this young man in silver robes was only a high-level Grand Ultimate God, he had an exceptionally high understanding towards the space-time law, and he might have even surpassed some peak Grand Ultimate Gods who were good at the space-time law. That was why he was able to react in the shortest period of time when enduring Jian Wushuang's a finger-pointing heavenly technique and break free. This is interesting. Let's see which one of us has a higher understanding towards the space-time law then. Jian Wushuang smiled indifferently and his figure had already met the young man in silver robes. Clink. The Blood Mountain sword in Jian Wushuang's hands was only simply sent forward, but his understanding of the space-time law had already been extended. He was incredibly speedy and the sword light contained lots of space-time blades that were also extremely powerful. The mystical weapon that the young man in silver robes used was a weird black sickle. This black sickle cut across the void and left black phantomic figures. They were also filled with a huge amount of space-time law power. Both parties instantly met in the middle of the void. Clink. The sound of metal clanking could be heard before Jian Wushuang's sword principle and the young man in silver robes' sickle principle completely burst out. Both parties instantly released their understanding towards the space-time law. Waves after waves of sword lights could be seen flashing outwards, and it was dense like a boundless sword sea. The young man in silver robes' black sickle also skimmed through the void over and over again, leaving dense, uncountable black phantomic figures. Clink, 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 clink. The continuous clunking sound of metal could be heard, and these two had achieved the ultimate speed. They were obviously comparing speed crazily. However, they were obviously well matched in such a competition. You are actually capable of catching up to my speed, that's quite good. Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. You are also the first high-level Grand Ultimate God who can catch up to my speed. Your understanding of the space-time law is definitely no lower compared to mine. I won't be able to win if we're fighting one-on-one, but it wouldn't be easy for you to defeat me. The young man in silver robes yelled. What he needed to do now was just to stop Jian Wushuang, allowing him no chance to take action in the battlefield so that he would not kill the experts from Heavenly Modest Palace and those under the lead of Blood Thunder King. As for directly defeating Jian Wushuang, he knew from the moment they got in this fight that he was incapable of winning. You want to stop me? Just by yourself? Jian Wushuang smiled coldly. Jian Wushuang slightly raised his left hand when he was still in the middle of the fight with this young man in silver robes. Hum, 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 hum. One after another, streams of black lights could be seen flying up. Apparently, these black light streams were a cold black divine sword, the Infernal Crimson Divine Swords. A total of 9 Infernal Crimson Divine Swords floated in front of Jian Wushuang, and these 9 divine swords were covered with thick transmigration power. This scene caused the young man in silver robes to narrow his eyes. I forgot to tell you that I'm not only good in space-time law, my understanding of the transmigration law is no weaker compared to that of the space-time law. Jian Wushuang smiled devilishly. Under his control, the 9 infernal crimson divine swords instantly transformed into 9 black light streams and went attacking towards the young man in silver robes. The expression on the young man in silver robes' face slightly changed. He backed away, speedily followed by a strong wave of the black sickle in his hand. Instantly, more than a dozen space-time blades went bursting out.